Most people believe the monster is something you find in a dark alley or a history book, a creature born with a blackened soul. But what if the person who burns the world down isn't a psychopath, but the neighbor who always waves back, the father who meticulously packs his children's lunches, the man who believes he's simply doing his job? Tonight, we aren't looking for monsters in the shadows. We are looking at the blueprint of the house they live in. This is the architecture of evil, a systemic construction that doesn't change who a man is, but simply recalibrates his nervous system until his morality becomes an unnecessary luxury. Part 1. The vacuum of meaning. To build a monster, you first have to clear the ground. You have to remove the foundation of individual value. In philosophy, we call this nihilism, the belief that life, knowledge, and morality have no intrinsic meaning. Most of us think our beliefs are rock solid, but nihilism is a force that can easily break a weak foundation. Think about the scale of the universe. To the vast, cold cosmos, there is no difference between the life of a human being and the life of a worm. We are tiny, fleeting, and arguably worthless in the grand scheme of time. This realization is the first step in the architecture. When a system can convince a man that his existence is meaningless and worthless, he stops looking for a higher purpose and starts looking for a script to follow. The system provides that script. If good and evil are just human inventions, situational, circumstantial fantasies we use to justify our mentalities, then a man can be convinced that killing is correct if the situation changes. Moral nihilism argues that ethics aren't absolute. They are simply tools. When a system strips away your specialness, it leaves a void. And in that void, the system installs its own morality. It rewards you for being functional and punishes you for being human. Part 2. The biological hijack. Once the meaning is gone, the architecture moves into the body. This is where the survival brain takes over. We like to think we are governed by logic, by our English-speaking mind that knows we are safe. But the part of you that runs the show in a crisis is older, wordless, and much more primal. Systems of cruelty, war, oppressive regimes, or even toxic corporate structures function by keeping the individual in a permanent state of survival mode. They install a surveillance system of hypervigilance in your nervous system. You start reading rooms before you read words. You track tone shifts, micro-expressions, and the temperature of a silence to ensure you aren't the next target. In this state, your body is idly running at a speed designed for emergencies that never end. Your breathing becomes shallow, your jaw clenches, your pulse quickens. You aren't living anymore. You are reacting. This is the psychological recalibration of the nervous system. When a man is forced to live in this state, his amygdala, the brain's alarm system, starts firing at the faintest hint of danger. He stops asking if a threat is real. He simply fires. He becomes a biological machine. He can understand his trauma or his orders perfectly, but his body will still flinch, freeze, or strike because it has been taught the language of survival and nothing else. Architecture of evil doesn't ask for your consent. It organizes your nervous system until unguarded feels unsafe. Part 3. The persona and the shadow. But how do these men sleep at night? They wear a mask. Carl Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted, loved, and recognized by the collective. The system demands that you be always available. It wants you to say yes when you want to say no, to respond quickly, to be useful, and to be predictable. When you are always available to the system's demands, you become a tool. You become an emotional emergency button for the state or the organization. This excessive availability is a form of self-abandonment. You disappear from your own life to stand in the center of the system's stage. And while your persona is busy being a good citizen or a loyal soldier, your shadow, the parts of yourself you cannot see, is being fed by the system. The system uses projections. It makes you the receptacle for its own darkness. It tells you that the other is the problem, that your violence is actually protection, and that your obedience is virtue. Because you are afraid of being rejected or abandoned by the only thing that gives you meaning, you agree to play the role. You become a blank canvas for the system's cruelty. The monster isn't the man. It's the role the man was too available to refuse. As long as he stays accessible to the system's triggers, he is a puppet. He loses his individuation, his ability to be a whole, authentic individual, and becomes a functional cog in a machine of destruction. Part 4. The Silence of Sovereignty. So, how do we dismantle the architecture? How does a man stop being a monster and start being a human again? It begins with unavailability. The world around a system goes into crisis when the individuals within it stop reacting. When you stop being predictable. When you choose silence instead of the automatic response, the game changes. True power isn't in reacting to every provocation or order. It is in choosing when and how to act. It is about keeping your psychic energy within yourself rather than letting the world decide where it goes. Jung understood that this process of individuation requires a sacred isolation. It requires you to distance yourself from the collective noise so you can finally hear your own voice. This isn't about being cold or indifferent. It's about becoming selective with your own soul. It's about saying not today to the triggers that used to make you flinch. It's about the unbearable vulnerability of being unguarded in a safe room. When you become unavailable to the system's manipulation, you force the system to confront its own emptiness. Your silence becomes a devastating weapon because it takes away the system's narrative control. You are no longer a convenient mirror for the darkness of others. Conclusion: reclaiming the body. The architecture of evil is built on the unlived life, the vigilance, the dissociation, and the independence that kept you surviving but prevented you from living. To break it, you have to return to the body. Healing a nervous system that has been forged in war isn't cinematic. It is a repeated, small, sometimes boring practice of showing up inside yourself. It is one breath, one meal eaten slowly, one moment of pleasure not interrupted. It is the humiliation of learning to feel your feet on the ground after 40 years of walking in a trance. The monster is dismantled one long exhale at a time. It is dismantled by finding a safe relationship, a nervous system that is calm, consistent, and present enough to remind yours that the war is over. We are all capable of becoming the monster if the architecture around us is strong enough, but we are also capable of sovereignty. Ask yourself tonight, what would it cost you to stop being impressive at surviving? What part of your available identity would have to die for a slower, softer, more ordinary self to have a chance? If you are ready to stop being a tool for the world and start being a home for yourself,